So the question is asked, first of all, who is God? And then the question is also asked for those who have been indoctrinated in a biblical worldview. Do we have to have a loving devotion to God in order to know God, or to have God grant us favors? Does God have to be obeyed through the 10 Commandments? Along with that come many questions. Why do good people suffer? Why is there suffering in the first place? The story of Job in the Old Testament is a story about this stage of development in our understanding of God. I call this the first stage of development because it's basically based on the fight-flight response, where we see God as the protector, where we understand God as the maker of rules, the 10 Commandments, where we fear God and yet we are devoted to God, we love God. We have a kind of love-hate relationship, the kind of relationship that sometimes an abused child has towards God. In my book, God, A Story of Revelation, I go through this stage of understanding the divine through the story of Job, in the book of Job in the Old Testament. So, of course, you may be familiar with that story, but I will read to you some portions from my book just to illustrate certain points. He could see into the next world, and he beheld God hurling into hell the disobedient angels. But even as they fell, God kept close behind him a counsel of evil. This adversary, or Satan as he was named, spoke only evil, and therefore he had a kind of twisted wisdom about humans. He whispered their misdeeds and sins in God's ear. The transgressions of men were so numerous that the adversary began to boast that he was the true ruler of the world. And so it befell upon Job, the big test, when God grew impatient and said, "Go and seek out my servant Job. He's upright and blameless. As long as there is one such as him, you will never prevail." And so, of course, Job was tested. His afflictions became a test, not a sign of wickedness. At the end of his testing and his redemption, Job says, "I have not sinned. I had only forgotten." So, through his trials and tribulations, Job does emerge as a seeker. He had once believed in the wisdom passed down from Moses and the fathers. Now he believed in nothing and everything. The Lord had stopped his mouth the better that he could open his eyes. What did Job see? A mystery, something that flew before the wind and answered every question with an echo. So, through the story of Job, of God, but only the beginnings. This is not to say that Job's understanding of God is primitive. God is already advanced by the time we encounter Job, because every aspect of life in ancient Israel was centered on God. As long as there are laws, customs, and a shared identity, which are complicated things, God will be just as complicated. But I think Job does ask an important question. Why me? Why me? This question of Job is about the human yearning to know why to everything. Why is there a universe? Why do we have awareness of the universe? How do we fit in? Is God an external being out there that created the universe and created us, and therefore we are his children, and therefore we have to obey him and love him as a commandment. And if we don't, will he punish us? I think it's very obvious that this is a projection, an idea that comes from fear, that comes from not knowing who we are, that comes from projecting God as an external being, as an idea that we have of somebody out there who created both the universe and us. And this easily can turn into a dysfunctional relationship. Does the story of Job have any relevance for us? I think it does, because Job starts to unfold a long history of the evolution of God, and he's a reminder that human beings have had the question why for a long time. Therefore, Job is a station along the way, and every station must be experienced before the traveler can move on. Otherwise, we are fated to repeat Job's predicament rather than solve it. So my book, God, A Story of Revelation, starts with the story of Job, with the basic question, why? Why are we here? If there is a God, why is there a God? If there is a God, does that God care about us? As you notice in the Old Testament, God is a he, God is a male, and that reflects the patriarchal beginnings of human civilization. As we move through my book, God, the story of Revelation, we'll go into the dynamics of revelation. What does it mean? And how does our awareness of ourselves, our instinct to know ourselves, our instincts to know our creation, our beginning, our instinct to reach enlightenment slowly evolves through history as human civilization and human understanding and human self-awareness and human reflection all take us to a deeper level of ourselves, and ultimately to a deeper level of our understanding of God. More to come.